In this interview, I meet up with Caz Gaddis. Cash helps moms rediscover themselves and stand in their personal power to create an intentional life with impact, both at home and as more than a parent. She is the founder of More Than a Parent video podcast. She invites mom to make space for themselves to have your kids and live life too. Let's welcome Cash. Thank you so much for coming in today and doing this interview with me. It's a pleasure having you.
Likewise, I'm so excited to be here with you, and hopefully, some of this is able to serve those watching and trying to figure out everything with homeschooling and just life now in 2020 and even into next year.
Yeah, I think it will. I'm very confident. So, I wanted to start by asking you, what are the 7 ways that you can show up?
Yeah. So I'm a core energy leadership coach. And what that means is there's these 7 different levels of energy in which that we can be showing up to life, whether that's personally or professionally. And it's important to also note that we all fluctuate between all these energies. So none of them are bad or anything like that. It's just knowing kind of where you're at so that you can then choose in the next moment where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so these 7 different levels, there's 2 different types of energies overall. The first set is called catabolic. And if you think about it kind of like a cat, like, those kind of energies detract and they take away from your overall energy, right? Um, and what that means is, so on the first level of the different energies, it's more of like a victim type of energy where you feel that everything is happening to you. So perfect example, let's look at the lens of if you've never homeschooled before, and here you are in this crazy new world of not just possibilities, but of what it can mean for your family. What does that look like if you had a job and now you're having to transition, or who does stay home? And there's all these different things. And so if you look at level 1 and look at that victim mindset, you start thinking, why me? Why
Mm-hmm.
now? Why does things like this always happen to me? I just got such and such position and now this. And so it's looking at things where there's no possibility, there's no personal power. You're just kind of there and it's happening to you and you have no choice.
Yeah.
The second level of energy, that's also that catabolic one, so it's one of the other 2, is it's called, it's a place of anger. It's a level 2. It's a place of having just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened, right? Like things were just starting to pan out for me, and then this happened, and now this is going on, and everything is like this drama and this like thing, and it's not necessarily a bad energy though. So I don't know about you, Kohila, but like I know even when I was a teenager, if I ever had anger about something, a lot of times it would either move me into express it in some sort of way. And then that's a choice that you can make when you're in that state. What kind of ways do you express that? Do
Yes.
you maybe write poetry and really share how you're feeling? Maybe you put on a song and you just jam out and you just like, ah. Or I used to go for a jog, which by the way is a big thing for me because I'm just not a jogger. But I would be so angry that then I would go and take it out physically in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't mean, again, there's no good or bad. It's just a level of being. So those are the 2 catabolic stages. And so when you move into the other levels of energy, those are called anabolic, which means they're for you. They're building you up versus tearing at you, because with the other ones, just like when you think of adrenaline, it can build you up for some time, but then there's like this crash. And so it's just not sustaining energy.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the other energy levels, that next level, that third level, it's kind of like the rationalizer, right? You're going through and you're just like, okay, cool. We're going to have to likely homeschool. That's okay. We'll figure it out.
Yep.
And you start looking at, okay, what do I need to know? Okay, I have to be the one to stay home because my partner, his job. Okay, that's fine. What else do we need to do? And so again, it's not necessarily a good or bad. It's how are you choosing to show up in that energy?
Mm-hmm.
Because you could feel like a rationalizer and just be like, you know what, it's okay. He or she, my partner, whoever that is, they deserve to have their job. I'll just go ahead and sacrifice, like whatever it is that's coming up for you. Or maybe maybe there was a workout that you used to go out or socialize, and now that's not a possibility in the same sense. but now maybe it's going to start opening up again, and you're also needing to homeschool. So you're having to do this give and take, right?
Mm.
This compromising. And so it's looking at, okay, maybe you can't do that, but how else could you do it? Versus just be like, you know what, it's okay. Like anything, and my whole thing, and that's why I'm a personal power coach for moms. It's like, whatever you want to do, you can have your kids and live life too, right? Like just, we're the ones a lot of times that limit ourselves,
Yep.
even in the midst of everything going on.
Mm.
So the fourth level is the nurturer.
Mm.
And that's where a lot of us parents are at, right? Just naturally, we have this desire to nurture and to make sure everyone else is doing good. And so that energy is actually very beautiful. You are really good on teams, and you help, and you get to have like this intuitive sense of how to help everybody kind of come together, right?
Yeah.
On the other side of that same energy, maybe you're helping so much with other people. What I've seen a lot with some of my clients that are moms, it's, you know, you have your stovetop metaphor and you're on the back burner.
Yeah.
And then everything else needs to come up now because these are real needs with 2020 and what's going on with homeschooling. But then you get so far off the back burner, you're on a corner, all of a sudden you're not even on the stovetop anymore.
No.
And that, and what I'm here today to share about is that's not good and that's not okay. And it's not even, it's about you, right? Like this is for you, but it's not even about you, because if you're in a place where you're not even on the stovetop, you're not nurturing yourself, you're serving from a place of exhaustion, and all you can serve from that is exhaust, right? Versus serving from a place of abundance and you're pouring into yourself so then you can pour to others. It's just a different energy.
It's different.
Yeah. So then that is the fourth level. So almost done here. So the fifth level is a level of possibility. You're just like, okay, cool. We have to homeschool. I had these plans for this year. My vision board is just pretty and nothing. This year it's just like, what, like just gone. But then you start looking at, okay, cool. Like what is possible now? Maybe that just wasn't meant to be or not now. And what else can I do now to like pour into myself and in my family? And how can I make this still pleasant and above pleasant for us as a whole, right? What opportunities did you not have before with your kids that now there's just so many different ways to not only pour into them, but allow them to lead their learning.
Yeah.
And then in the sixth level, it's more of just looking at, it's like beyond everything. You're just really looking kind of like in a holographic way. And same with level 7, you only touch those for a little bit because you're kind of very aloof when you get to that level. It's really when you kind of observe yourself in life and everything is just what it is. There's no feelings around it. And so again, we all touch on those moments where maybe we just look out to the ocean or we're sipping our coffee and we feel like the steam, right? And we're just in that moment of just like, wow, everything is just everything. And anyway, it's really hard to explain those levels, but it is a state of being where everything is just on a different field for you. But all these energy levels, they're actually grounded in science, they're grounded in a lot of research. There's even an assessment that can help you show like, where are you in that moment, to help you really truly choose how is it that you're showing up. And it's not with judgment. It's really looking at, okay, so this is what I'm feeling. How do I want to then proceed with taking action and having those feelings become thoughts, right? And then become the action. So yeah, those are the different levels.
Wow. Cool. So you said there's an assessment. So a mom could just, why is it just for moms? Just to start with that for a second.
Yeah. So yeah, the assessment is for everyone. It's actually used a lot of times in corporate. It came through the training that I went through. I went through a year-long certification through IPEC Coaching is the name of the institute. And they're an ICF accredited institute. So this is for everyone. I personally work with moms mostly. Yeah. And so that's where that piece comes in, but happy to help any parent or teacher, especially in this time, if they're wanting to look into that assessment and they would take that, and then I would be able to have a debrief with them to really ask further questions and share with them how that specifically looks like for them, because those different energy levels, they show up differently for you based on your past, your thoughts, your assumptions, like all these different things that come up for you. So yeah, so it's not just for moms, it's for everyone.
Okay, perfect. So it's just it's very in depth, like it's like analyzing yourself as a whole, right? It's cool. It's very, very cool. So
it's life changing, and it's always ever changing. That's
Mm.
another thing important to share.
Mm. So how do those apply to our kids? Does this apply to our kids too? Could
It
we?
totally does. Yeah. And I think I've been working with a child and adolescent, there you go, big word for me today, a child and adolescent therapist. And I've been learning so much from her. And, she was talking a lot about how when we can manage our own emotions,
Mm.
then we can help our kids navigate through their emotions. And her
Yes.
name is Kim Lang. She's amazing. And so it's the same from a therapist perspective and from my coaching perspective. It's when we're able to understand our own energies, our own emotions, whatever you want to refer to them as, then we're better able to not just manage ourselves in those moments and choose how we want to show up to our
Mm.
kids, but that way we're not pushing anything on them or we're
Mhm.
not making meanings from things. And then on the other side, as you mentioned with our kids, when we understand what's coming up for them, what
Yeah.
things are meaning to them,
Mhm.
um, it's just like when you look at, yeah, like maybe they just love electronics and what does that really mean for them? Or something that you said just was different for them. And if you really ask them where that stems from
Mhm.
and what that makes them feel like and why, you would get so many different more dimensions to what's really going on so that you
Yes.
can actually partner with them versus coming from a place of directing them.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important, especially for our own personal mental wellness. Going into more homeschooling again, especially if you haven't before,
Yeah.
there's so many different factors of not just doing what you're being told to share with them or whatever company, I forget what it's called, right? But like whatever the group of thought is behind the homeschooling system,
Mhm.
it's also making sure you have compassion for yourself, right? Self compassion, and then
Yeah.
compassion for your kids because it's all new for them as well. And they don't have as many ways to cope
Yeah.
and learn and shift as we do, but we can teach them that as well.
Yes. Yes. It just brings back memory, like when I was just being a teacher or tutor, both of them didn't work for me with my students, right? When they came for help, because I needed to be a coach, because I needed to analyze what's happening within them. It's not about, when I did that, the, math help that they came for became like easy to them. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't something that I was needing to push or direct it or, push on them. They just wanted it because now their other issues are solved that,
right.
other parts that they were struggling with, right? Those energies are solved, right? So it's really, really important for parents to understand that from their kids, especially now. Like,
Yeah. Well, and all of us, like we're all going through this somehow. But we're all figuring it out as we go.
yeah,
And there's just a lot of totally makes sense. There's a lot of emotions with this. And if anything ever frustrates you with, especially when I think of your background with being a math tutor first and then helping not just the kids, but also the professionals and the parents, so anger is a secondary emotion.
yeah,
And what that means is anger, there's so much more layers to that behind it, right? And so when your kids maybe take something you're teaching them, or now there's a new structure and they're just not really gelling with it yet, it's looking at what can it be meaning to them? What's really behind that? Because then when you get to that root, then you can approach it differently. And I mean, a lot of times they can lead the way, depending on their age, they can lead the way to sharing with you what could work, or together you guys
yeah.
come up with.
Yeah, they become a team member. Like that's why I say I coach. I
Yeah.
don't tutor anymore or teach them. We're coaching. We're a team. We need
Mm-hmm.
to come up with what's going to work in this, what we want to do, right? So you
Right.
empower them. Right?
Right.
Yeah,
And that right there is so there's this thing called range of engagement.
yeah.
And what that has to do with, it's kind of looking at I like to help I like to help a lot with moms with looking at what is high performance for us,
Mm,
because it's so different than what it may be like for people that don't have kids. So for parents in general, high performance will look different.
mm,
um, Side note, there's also a thing called the baby effect. And I think that we'll see that differently now in
mm,
this upcoming season of 2020 and into 2021. The baby effect, really quick. I heard it first from Pat Flynn, who is an online entrepreneur, very successful. And he talked about when he had his kids, how, especially his first son, that he just felt this burning sensation inside of him, this drive to like get things done and not waste as much time and really focus on becoming successful, because now there was a different motivation there.
Yeah.
And I think now if we're looking at homeschooling and we also maybe have our own side business or our own business or whatever else is in the mix of what is in our world or what we want to add to our world, then it's looking at how do we create that drive to then still accomplish and be all those things.
Yes.
But what I was going to share before is the range of engagement. And so when you're looking at your kids or for yourself, like maybe you're dragging your feet and not really wanting, kind of like a cat going into a shower. Maybe you're not really wanting to homeschool, but somehow or other, it's just kind of, it is what it is at this point, right? We're rationalizing it with that level 3. And maybe we're going into level 5 of looking at what's the opportunity. When you look at the range from engagement, you can go from, I have to do this, to, you know what, this, I kind of want to do this, to I choose to do this.
Yeah.
And it becomes a higher level of personal choice, right? Of power and choice of doing it. And so when you look at with your kids and how you were mentioning, Kohila, with coaching them, it's how can we get them versus make them?
Yes.
How can we get them to want to then do the thing, even if it's a thing that nobody wants to do? But like, how do you do that? Because that becomes a skill as an adult. There's a lot of things as adults that we have to do that we don't want to do. Yeah. So then it's an opportunity to help them be more successful than in the long run, you know?
Yeah. And with homeschooling, you know, what COVID has done is like, you know, changing that traditional school for many of the parents to that, you know, in home, it was a pushed event, right? Not a choice. None of us had it. It was just pushed onto you. It was forced onto you, right?
Yeah.
So now though, after this, we're putting together a whole bunch of ideas how school can look like, you know, some days in, some days off, online versus all the stuff. But then there's also these other options, which is what the summit was also discovering, is exploring, as well as, you know, could you do homeschooling where you just take on and maybe that is way better for your family because you've noticed something during COVID period that you didn't really had time before to analyze it in your life, right? So these moments have given parents an opportunity to say, look, we've done it through this. What if I take the ownership of the education as well and just fully take it on to homeschooling? And then we're looking at also unschooling, which is like, just let the child lead it. Let's follow his lead or her lead, and then that becomes much easier on parents too, right? So there's all kinds of options now for parents. That's that energy you were, when you were talking about, it's coming to me as we didn't have those before. Now I'm you know, have choices, and I'm way more in a position to now choose, whereas we were just sending kids to school before.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful in like a beautiful chaos kind of way. So my kiddos, right? My kiddos are much younger, but I've always thought homeschooling would be interesting, but I've never dared. There's a whole other side story to me even having kids. I actually didn't want kids. I did not envision myself ever being a mom. So joke's on me. Now we have 2. Super love them and everything, but it's I had to get through a lot of my own stuff. Truly is what it came down to. There was a lot of fears there. And so looking at homeschooling is, it's like its own other turf of fear and of different ways that you can make it mean things about you.
Yes.
Right. I know when I thought about having kids, I was so afraid because I knew how impressionable kids are.
Yes.
And then I was just like, well, who am I, you know, to have these kids and teach them and whatever. And then I realized, and this was a huge breaking point for me in like the best of ways. I realized it's not up to us to make them do things. It's up to us to coach them and instill in them the things that then they can grab from and go forward. And so I think, again, I'm new and very in the early stages of homeschooling myself, but I've seen in what I've done with my kids so far, it really shows so much of their own personal power. And it shows you that it's, you know, they're the ones that are capable. We're just helping navigate and helping supply them with things and support. But it's just a beautiful opportunity to, to see what you want to create together as a family unit, you know,
Yeah.
whatever your unit looks like and whatever it is that you want to create.
Yeah, and works for your family.
Mm-hmm.
Because before it was, traditional school, I've been in it, as a teacher myself, and there's a lot of things that's not working. As we have, our growing, right? And,
Mm-hmm.
moving away from the why that school was created, we're far from what's doing it now for our
Yeah.
students. And that's why our students don't, they're not motivated because
Right.
it's not serving them correctly 100%, right? When we have that gap like this big,
Mm-hmm.
sending it again to that same institution every day, it's not helpful for parents. So I'm really, I mean, yes, it was a horrible year, a lot of bad things happened, but I still look at it as opportunity. And that's why I wanted to have the summit and open up and bring people like you to share that, look at that energy, like something inside of you is telling you that
Mm-hmm.
traditional school might not work. Then you have to do your research and figure out, what can I do, what can
Right.
I bring to make it work for my family and my kids, right? So
Right.
that's, yeah. So do
Yeah.
you think this energy that you just talked about, like relationship between parents, right, which is also in jeopardy? I've heard a lot of stories now
Yeah.
coming up about, because we spend too much time with our partners more than ever, I think.
Everybody, everyone's full house all the time.
24/7, right? So that produced, made some people annoyed. It's normal, right? We're all human. So
Yeah.
so how is that energy, like the things you were talking about, how can we apply to parents, like adults?
Yeah, and before even sharing with you, I did want to share one other piece, which was so I actually started originally before I went into the coaching, professional coaching world. I actually was doing my master's in higher education,
Oh,
and doing that, I actually left after a successful time there. But I realized for me there was a lot of red tape, and that same red tape exists in all of education. And so when we're looking at education at any level, it's looking at, even if you decide to go the traditional way, but maybe there's, however it's going to look like for you in this upcoming few
totally.
semesters, because it might be a mix of everything, there's still a lot of really cool space to play and see what else you would still want to add, because this is the time to do it. What better time than when everything's kind of like a snowball, right?
Yeah.
Um, so so to answer your question though about the
Relationship.
parents, yeah, the relationship, and I mean, we're all at the end of the day, we're all partners, and we're co-parenting together, and we're partners. The kids are also partners, and if we really see everyone in that space,
Mm,
it may take some time to transition to that, especially if that has not been the way that your household has worked before.
mm,
Um, but I have conversations with my husband all the time now. We've both been working from home for years, and we both have our own businesses. And even then, though, with everything going on, there were still additional conversations of, okay, cool, like how will we balance this? What's the dance?
mhm,
And that's another thing. I don't think that there's balance. Like I just caught myself saying balance, and I'm like, wait a minute. So to me, it's integration,
mm,
because it's not going to look the same every day, or at least in my life, it's never looked the same every day. And it's really looking at what integration, how do you want that mix to look like in this moment, this day, this week.
mm,
And so I think it's so important to have conversations with your significant other, if you have one. And if it's you, then, figure out having time to have conversations with yourself. Sounds funny, but I'm actually serious about it. How do you plan to be supported? What is your upcoming week looking like, or the next day? Or if the moment and within the day, you're just like, wait, this day is kind of like, I need this right now.
mhm,
Share with that person, share with yourself, what is that you need in that moment? Like, what's the next best thing?
mhm,
Because again, if you're feeling super overwhelmed, if you are needing to get on a call, but like the kids, like I, right before jumping on our summit, I just taught a laughter yoga session. And
mhm,
I thought it would be really sweet, because I know some people would have their kids still be in the same space. I thought, oh, my daughter could be with us. She was not having it. And so I had to have my husband come in and kind of swoop her and give her her iPad, and, they went to do other things. And so it's looking at what's needed now,
yeah,
and having that self-compassion with each other.
yeah,
Um, and I don't know if those listening, if you guys have ever heard of like the love languages,
yep,
right? There's all these different, yeah, Kohila, you've heard of it too.
yes,
And so it's looking at keeping those in mind,
yeah,
whatever the love language are, love language, what? English, whatever the love languages are for you individually. But then look at what is the support language
Mm.
that's needed now. It's like a whole new level of support that's
Wow.
needed right now for us. What space do you need?
Mm.
Because even if you have everybody, they're still looking at what is it that you need truly to not just survive this time, but to thrive,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And it's having those conversations. And at the end of it all, at least from a mom perspective, because I am one, but also too, because again, I'm most working with moms. Get out of your own way and stop self-sabotaging. If you need to ask for help, ask for help. It
Mm.
is so hard for us a lot of times because we are super women, but
Yes.
then it becomes the superwoman syndrome,
Yes.
right? Where we totally, like, no one's questioning if we're super women or not. But then there comes this space where we then just decide to not talk
Yeah.
and ask for the help when we need it. And then that is so dangerous when it comes to our significant other, our kids, anything that we deal with, whether it's our own business or someone else's. Resentment comes in
Yeah.
and you don't even know. And the hardest type of resentment to work through, and then on top of that, trying to homeschool,
Uh-huh.
is a resentment with yourself.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
so it's being aware of all those different things, and just know that you're doing the best you can.
Yes.
Everyone is.
Yeah.
And together, when you have those conversations, again, kind of completing the question, the answer back to you is, when you have all those different conversations and that awareness that comes through over time,
Yeah.
you'll figure out your own flow of that integration and what that looks like for your family.
But a lot of moms and moms usually they say that it's hard to have those conversations. He doesn't get it, or she doesn't get it, even sometimes, right? Or the kid doesn't get
Right.
it, right? But I think that's because it's past that point a little bit when you say that, because you've let it go too long, and now you have these resentful feeling. You're not feeling it differently, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have to catch it earlier a little bit, right, before you get to that.
True.
And asking for help is also culturally, it's like woman is supposed to do
Yes.
everything. That mentality, it's put on by us, right? More than anything, kind of have to take that
Yes.
off, wash it
Yeah.
off, right? Yeah.
And that's been a challenge. So I may not look it. I think I love talking to people about where they're from and what they identify with. I'm half Dominican, half German. And I was raised 100% German, just kidding, 100% Dominican, but I have that German side. But that Dominican side and that strong women feel and how you do the house and what it represents about you, if you know your laundry.
It's
Let me
not
tell you, my grandmother in heaven, God bless her and rest her soul. I am sure there's a lot of judgment. There are monuments in my home of laundry, but it's like you have to figure out what your integration is, right? And like what is going to support you and the family moving forward, and figure out the other things. There's solutions and possibilities for everything. To your point about when you get to a certain space and there's resentment, or they're not getting it, they're not getting what you need, that's fine. It comes to a point where you need to get what you need. And so there's this kind of saying with when it comes to like the energy work and being aware of everything, is you can't control anything from your fingers forward. So
Mm.
from your fingers backward, you have somewhat more control, right? There's technically, if you want to look at science and blah, blah, blah with our bodies, we don't have 100% control there either. So that's why this year is also interesting, because it's shaking everything up. People feel like they're in less control, but guess what? We never had control.
Mm.
We don't have control of gravity. There's when you surrender to that,
Mm.
right? And then you realize, okay, then what do I want to feel? What kind of support do I need? And then how can I get that for myself?
Mm.
If you're a spouse, if you're a significant other, if you're a solo mama, solo dad, I'm thinking baby shark in my head. But if you're that solo parent, whatever it is that you are, right? That caregiver, how can you fill your cup? How can you still get those things
Mm.
outside of those people? Because we shouldn't just depend on those people.
Yeah.
We need to be depending on ourselves, just like we support others. And I think if we start looking at that as well, if they're not getting it, still work with them. I'm not saying like be like, nope, still work with them and look through time having those conversations. But they can equally get that by looking at the example of how you support yourself, or how other people start supporting you, and you're starting to seek and get those things. Because chances are too, and again, this goes further into energy and we can have more conversations about this. If you're getting that support, even if it's from other people, your own energy is going to start showing up differently,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to start seeing you be different.
different.
And they're going to start taking notice over time.
Mm-hmm.
And then that can lead to other conversations. So all of it, it's possible, but at the end of the day, it starts with you and it ends with you, you know?
Yeah. And shutting it with those kind of thoughts will come up to you. No one's care or no one listening or they're not going to do it, right? But kind of moving past that, right? As you say.
Yeah, well, actually, instead of past that, moving through that. So the more uncomfortable you feel with those things, like lean into it. It's not comfortable, but has this year been at all? Seriously? So it's looking at what is coming up for you with that. Chances are the things that you're feeling in that moment about that person or that situation have come up in other times in your life.
Mm.
And then you start seeing this commonality thread. And if you're able to figure out the source of that, and you're able to say thank you to it, sounds weird, but if you're able to get to that point of saying, okay, I get it, because then you can see what's on the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
What's a possibility of that? Just like the homeschool thing. This kind of got crazy, 2020 came in, and now we're seeing, okay, then maybe we're going to move into this.
Yeah, what's my options? If it wasn't, we would have just gone on with life, right?
Yeah.
As usual.
Right. And a lot of times it's our interpretation of what's going on as well. They, may not mean anything by their support or lack of support or trying to support, and it just may be what we're seeing it as because of our own past experiences and perspective. And so sometimes just having a conversation or just examining where that's coming from for us makes us realize that we were using a different lens in looking at the situation or the person or the relationship.
Yeah. Cool way to look at it. Totally different, right?
Sounds cool and easy. It's not at all. But it is possible for you. It's possible for all of us,
Yeah. It takes work, right? It takes time and work.
Let me tell you, coffee and laughter yoga. But no, it is.
What is
and
laughter yoga?
Yeah.
I mean, you keep saying it. Do I just laugh the whole time?
Yeah. So it's very similar. So laughter yoga, I just got certified in it. And it stems from India. It's beautiful. It's from 1995 it started. And it's like yoga in the sense of the harmonizing and the breath work. But it's all in laughing. And it's cool because it's different exercises, but at the end of it, it benefits your body with dopamine and it helps circulation, oxygen flow. The reason I love it and I got certified in, I just found out about it this year, all during everything going on, which is a whole different conversation there. But the reason I started with that, my dog, who has the longest claws, just walked by. So I'm sure you heard all those pitter patters. There's laughter yoga. But no, the reason I love it is a way to release stress and anxiety. And even that way, maybe you don't have to yell at people. You can just laugh and it just kind of brings you to a different space where you feel like you can recenter and now see, okay, cool, like what's next? And that's what I love about it, especially for moms. I don't think that sometimes we laugh enough or we don't release enough because we don't have time to, right? There's like the next thing that we have to do when someone needs this and they're calling. So it's a space to have it for yourself, and you could do it with the kids too.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'll share it with you next time. I can share also with your audience so that they can read more about it and everything. Yeah.
Yes, I like that. We all need it.
For real. Humor is the best medicine to life, especially in 2020.
I in my coaching, I cannot go without making something funny. Like I bring math is so dry, right? Like, can you imagine hours and hours teaching people in a dry subject like that? It doesn't work. Right? So I have to laugh with them. So I always humanize the numbers, he and she, and there goes that. Let's kick him out. Let's drop him there. Like, they're happy doing it with me.
Right. Well, and the story, like you mentioned, story is so beautiful. Yes. It helps you kind of have that frame of mind and remember things, but it builds so much color. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not touching numbers. We're kicking people. We're dropping them. We're like, why do we need them? Get rid of him. He doesn't belong here. Who should we get next?
I need you to tutor me in math.
For sure. Sure. So you shared with me that you have a holistic perspective on the upcoming school year, right? And self-care. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can we explore on that? And can you share with me a way we can explore this for ourselves as well?
Sure. Yeah, I actually, in the midst of everything COVID, especially at the beginning, I actually did a podcast roundup with different people that shared their perspective on whole self-care as well.
Mm,
And I'd be happy to share that information with you to share with everyone as well.
awesome.
It's one of those things that we think of self-care like a nice to have, like a luxury, but it's
Mm,
not. It's very much needed. And it goes surpast getting your nails done. I mean, that could be nice. But it goes past all of those things into in the moment in your day. Maybe there's a certain way that you would like to wake up. Maybe it's a small routine. Like maybe it's just having your coffee in silence
mm,
and it's still hot.
mm.
What? And so
That's
it's
great.
looking at, right? Every person on here is like, oh, especially if you've been home with the kids. Like by now, like all of us are like, what? You didn't have to reheat it.
Mm,
Um, so it's looking at you as a whole person. What is the thing that you
mm.
most need? And so, if you guys have ever heard of life wheels, Kohila, have you heard of
No,
a
I
life
don't
wheel
know.
before? So this is like a super basic practice in a lot of people's when they do coaching. And so that's one of the things I start with a lot of my clients with, and I do it quite often. You can find them online, and it's basically it's just like a pie chart.
Mm,
Yeah, and you're able to look at the different areas of your life. And
mm.
you're able to kind of give it a look.
Percentage?
I'm talking your love language right there. I said pie chart. I just want to take a
Yes.
moment and share that. And there's numbers in this,
Nice.
but you you associate a number to every category. It's almost like a pizza pie, so there's slices. And so you associate a number to every category in your life. And at the end of it, you just kind of look at it and see how round is this pizza pie or is this pie chart. And usually it's not round because each area has its own way of looking, but it really helps you take a moment and look at how is every part of you feeling right now? How are you really doing?
Nice.
In finances, in your relationship, in professional or personal development, in fun. We forget about fun.
Oh,
And so when you look at this upcoming year, health is another one. There's a whole bunch of different categories you can
yeah.
use.
It's cool.
When you
Sounds
look,
cool.
yeah, it is really cool. And again, I can share one with you as well
Yes.
if you want to send that for everyone to be able to use. But when you look at the pie chart, you're able to really see, or the life wheel, you're able to see kind of where you at. And so that is a whole 360 view of where you are in this current moment. And so when
Mm,
I talk about whole self-care, it's looking at, how are you pouring back into yourself
mm.
in the midst of everything, especially with the homeschooling piece, or if you're unschooling, whatever you're doing with your family and those that you care
Nice.
for. If you're not making sure that you're also being cared for and having that time for self-care,
Yeah.
then again, like from the beginning of our conversation, you're not going to show up in
No.
the personal power that you can have,
Mm,
to be able to really not just again help them, but you're your own person with your own life too. So
mm.
let's make sure that you're feeling validated and seen, and that you're being that you're just showing up how you want to,
Yeah.
right? That you're making the impact and not just the contribution to your household, but whatever other contribution you want to have. And if that's the only contribution you want, that's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But if you're wanting to have an impact outside of them,
Mm,
outside of your household or your family, what can that look like? Even now with everything going on, what can be explored? And so it's looking at all of that. And the number one thing is fun. The other thing is, I know that we don't have time right now, like that don't have time, right? We can make time. And so it's looking at what do you really value, and
mm,
then let's create a plan for that.
mm.
So much so that something else I'll share with you as well, that my gift to you all, and this is for moms, but again, any parent caregiver that's listening to this, if you love it, I'd love to share it with you as well. It's mom brain. I'm like, what is it? It's a 21 day, I call it a 21 day mom break challenge.
Mm,
And it's 21 different days or different exercises that you can do. They're each between 5 and 15 minutes.
mm.
And I did some, and then I had some guests come in because I'm like, what else is fun? So it's all these different things that many of us haven't even heard of. That's actually how I heard about laughter yoga for the first time. And so there are all these 5 to 15 minute things that you can do just for yourself, to have fun, to reconnect with you, to try something different.
Thank you.
Especially, as we're going into more of the new normal that we're in and we're creating.
Mm, mhm. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. What I'm
Yeah.
going to do is all the stuff you're giving us a lot of lists now. So what I'm going
Yeah.
to do is put it all together so they can have it for sure. Yeah,
Perfect.
because it's good.
Hmm.
While I was talking, my brain was thinking I should make laughing math. Like,
Oh, I love that.
okay,
Yeah. Let me
right?
tell you, when you used to see my scores in math, that would also make you laugh
We'll fix it
or
along.
cry if you were me.
Well, maybe we should make it. We laugh at the math at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Let's make sure. Yeah. That's perfect. I think kids would love that. Yeah, it's been fun with even with the laughter yoga again, seeing some of the kids come on with it. They really enjoyed it. So you can do laughter yoga math. There you go.
I like it. I liked it. So, do, how do you suggest that we homeschool our kids and find time for ourselves? I think you gave us a little bit already in our
Mm-hmm.
talk earlier, right? So just even those activities you're talking about, this challenge, right? Just finding
Right.
those moments for you, right? And not feeling guilty, I think, is important. Don't we
Right.
moms always have this guilt going on? I'm taking
It's so
time for
real.
me. I'm taking
Yeah.
time for me, some kind of disease, right? It's kind of a disease.
Right. Well, and it's at the end of it is looking at with the taking the time, right? Is look at whatever the requirements or whatever you want the flow of the homeschooling or whatever the schooling is going to look like is,
Yeah.
and then also look at what is it that you actually want to experience, and then what does that come in together, that integration between the two, and then you fill in everything else.
Yeah.
But it's knowing like those different. It's a lot of meshing. There's a
Yeah.
lot of layers.
Mm,
Just make sure, or at least I would say consider how intentional you want to be about all of it. It's not going to be perfect. We're going to all like, like if you have pants on for your meeting on Zoom, that's great. That's you're winning at life right there. So it's not taking everything so seriously, but also making sure that you're taking yourself seriously enough
mhm,
to be important enough to be part of the conversation.
mhm,
Like don't forget yourself in the midst of making sure everybody else is okay,
mhm,
because it's
mhm.
it's a lot of different things that we're all putting into practice or for the first time.
Do you help moms who have this guilt that, that's how you end up off the stove, right? Because you keep
Yeah.
saying that to yourself.
Like, yeah. So yeah, no, for sure. That is like the main thing that I work on is it's helping us get out of there's a term, it's called a mommy martyr. And it's taking ourselves away from just being a martyr and being in that level 4, that nurturing space, to a point of detriment. And then some parents that I work with, they're good on that level, but right, there's the challenge of like, how do I still do my thing and then have the kids, like how does this all work? And so it's looking at how do you shift your energy, like what else is possible, and creating all those things together. So
Mhm,
yeah, so anything related to your own personal power, so that you can not just be a present parent but
mhm,
be present for yourself,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Is yeah, a space that I can support in for sure.
It's also a bit cultural from you because you've seen it from our moms were are like most of the moms were like that, right? Because
Hmm.
self-care wasn't something they always cared about the husband or the kids mostly, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I never, my grandmother raised me since I was little. And I mean, she would go on the 4th story of our house in New York and fix a roof, my grandmother. This
mm,
was already her in her 60s. Yeah, I never saw her do anything for personal care. She
yes.
was so strong. But at the same time, it's remembering like that still has a detriment to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's an opportunity. Even now, like there's things that I've taught my mom,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to self-care and energy, without meaning to. It's not like I'm like, look mom, we're gonna you know do laughter math, but it's in the space of just who you're being. It's amazing what people observe, and
Mm-hmm.
and how it can also heal others and help others too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Better place to be at
Yeah.
than feeling it the other way around, right? So where
Hmm.
can we connect you further? I will have all your information for sure. They will have it,
Yeah.
but you have a podcast, don't you?
Yeah. So the name of my practice and my podcast is More Than a Parent.
Yeah.
And if you go to cazgaddis.com, you'll be able to get connected to everything there. There's also a members club for moms. This is, sorry, fellas. This is specifically for moms, whether it's biological or not, like you're still a mom, right? You're still in that essence of it. And so there is a members club for moms where we go very much more into personal power and really showing up as who you want to be so that you can have your kids and also live life too, especially and still very much so in this year.
Nice, nice. So, when a parent is like right now for this summit, the parents are like, debating or they're feeling this, urge to kind of change the way they're going to homeschool their kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Either it's a blended learning between school and home and whatever the predictions that is there, but then there's this, I take ownership of all of it and then I'm going to deliver it myself as a homeschool parent, and then there's the
Mm-hmm.
unschooling and all the other different types. What do you recommend? What is your advice in terms of staying in that energy and then keeping it all not balanced but integrated, as you said?
Yeah, check in with yourselves often, check in with your kids often.
Mm.
That's the best thing is looking at live feedback as you're doing it, because you can plan, and I have been guilty of this for years. My background is as a marketing strategist, and so I can plan anything amazingly, but when will you actually get out of planning mode and do it?
Mm.
And then, so with homeschooling, you have a plan set for you, but it's also making sure to revisit the plan. Like, is it actually working? And how are you feeling, even if it is working?
Mm.
Because then it's just a pivot, it's a dance, you
Mm.
know? And I think it's just being in a way, finding ways to embrace the awkwardness of the dance. Because essentially it's not just this year, it's life. Life can be super awkward. And it's like, how do we embrace that? And then our kids are watching. How are we helping them embrace it?
Mm. Yeah,
Right?
role modeling. And you said don't go through it, go through this experience, right? And
Yeah, don't try to just get past it, like go through it, because here's the thing. If you don't go through it now,
mm,
the universe has this really funny, beautiful thing that it thinks it's doing, where if you didn't learn a lesson or if you didn't see what you needed to see from an experience, it's going to
mm,
bring it right back. And you're just like, well, then we just did this. It just happens sometimes in relationships, right? You just have this certain type of friend or maybe a significant partner where you're just like these same traits. Like, it's just like they just attract
you
themselves to
didn't,
me. It's not them, it's you. It's your
mm,
energy and it's what it's attracting. And that can, we can chat about that more, but it's a very real thing.
wow.
It's us. It starts and it ends with us.
And I never thought about it like that. If it comes back
Yeah,
again, that means I haven't dealt it. I didn't go
right.
through it.
And
I,
when you go through it, you're just like, okay, it's like,
okay,
all right, what do you want?
now I get
and I'm
it.
laughing through it, but you have to laugh because otherwise. But yeah, it's going through it will support you more than just getting past it, because it'll come, and then it'll come with friends, and those are not the kind of friends you want with
Yeah.
those situations. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We learned a
Yeah.
lot,
Thank you.
and thank you very much. And
Yeah.
I think it's all about the energy, right? The energy in,
Everything is
energy
energy.
out. Energy in,
Yeah.
energy out. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you guys all for listening and for connecting to this resource. Kohila has done such an amazing job. I can't wait to continue to see everything that is coming for you. And I just wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And hopefully there's some ways that you can laugh and
Yes,
embrace embrace the moments. I think we should all start a support group.
for laughing.
Well, for dealing, like, this is going to be a really fun adventure, y'all.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.